is Renee Sharp. She's the Director of Research with the Environmental Working Group to give us the lowdown on these different items, hopefully save you some money when you're out shopping. Renee, welcome to Market Fresh.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I love this list, by the way. I've been using it for well over a year now, and it really comes in handy. Let's start with the Dirty Dozen, which is this year's the Dirty Dozen Plus, right?
Correct.
And what is the plus all about?
Right. So what we do is every year we take USDA's own test results, because the USDA tests fruits and vegetables for the pesticide residues on the produce after they've been either washed or peeled. So how you would typically prepare it for eating. So we take this data and we analyze it and basically come up with a ranking of the produce which are the cleanest in terms of having the least pesticide residues, and the dirtiest, those that have the most pesticide residues. And the list changes a bit every year because we have new data to work with, and pesticides, come on and off the market. So this year, topping the Dirty Dozen list are apples.
And that's really common, right? Apples are often near the top?
Yeah, that is often the case. There's a lot of pesticides, different kinds of pesticides that are sprayed on apples before and after harvest, and even, fungicides. So when they're in cold storage, the idea is that they'll stay fresher longer, though, of course, you don't actually need to do that because we have organic produce, which is just fine. So, yeah, apples often top the list, and this year following apples are celery and cherry tomatoes.
Oh.
And I can tell you the rest of, if you want to hear the whole list, or you can go to our website, www.ewg.org.
And we have a link to that. I'll just let people know. We have a link to Environmental Working Group's site. It'll take them directly to the listings, and that is under our program summary for today's Market Fresh. Continue, Renee.
Oh, perfect. Thanks so much. So we look at pesticide levels, basically, primarily. But we also look a little bit at the most toxic pesticides. There are some kinds of pesticides which are really known to be particularly toxic. Some of them are even actually banned in the country, but they're still showing up on the produce that we have here.
Is that where strawberries come in?
No, actually, in this case, it's collards and kale and summer squash. They are contaminated at pretty significant levels, really, with organochlorine and organophosphate pesticides, some of which are actually permitted to be used, even though they're quite toxic, and some of them which actually have been banned.
And those are the plus items.
Correct. So basically, these are ones where maybe the levels of these, the concentrations aren't as high as, say, some of the other fruits on the Dirty Dozen list, but because they are contaminated with particularly toxic pesticides, we basically add them to a list, to the Dirty Dozen list, because they're a special concern.
Renee, we're in strawberry growing country. A big chunk of the U.S. Strawberries come from the Central Coast here, and I'm wondering, I've noticed at Farmers Market, I will ask the growers if the strawberries are organic, and in many cases, they'll tell me no, but they're pesticide-free. But the main offending chemical to worry about with strawberries isn't a pesticide, right? It's a fungicide?
We kind of group them all together.
I see.
We call them pesticides because, to most people, a pesticide is an herbicide, is a fungicide.
Right.
So we just call them pesticides for simplicity.
I was just wondering if they can get away with that. If they can say, "Oh no, we're pesticide free," when they are pesticide free, but they still used that. How they wrap the fields in that plastic and then they inject the soil.
Yeah, that's a question. My understanding is most people who are calling themselves pesticide-free, basically they're not using pesticides, but either they haven't gotten certified because it's kind of an expensive proposition, or they're transitioning to organic, and there has to be this waiting period if you're going from conventional.
And hats off to them for trying that. We have about a minute left. Can you quickly run down the list of the clean ones? We definitely want to highlight those.
Sure, absolutely. So the clean ones, the ones with the The least amounts of pesticides include asparagus, avocados, cabbage, cantaloupe, corn, eggplant, grapefruit, kiwi, mangoes, mushrooms, onions, papayas, pineapples, sweet peas, and sweet potatoes.
That's like a list of my favorite
There you
stuff.
go. You're totally set.
And we should let people know that a couple of those, corn, I know in particular, is a huge GMO crop, but that's mainly feed corn and the corn used to make like corn oils and stuff like that.
Correct. There are some varieties of sweet corn that's GMO, but not as many.
Yes. Well, like you said, all the information is available online. Renee Sharp, Director of Research for the Environmental Working Group. Thank you so much for putting out this list each year.
Thank you so much for having us.